And here we are. We are live. Oh, my seat just fell down a bit. We are live. Welcome, welcome. Um, I'm your host for today's Craft and Chat. I'm all alone. Yeah, Louisa couldn't make it today, and it's okay. It's totally fine. It happens. So I'm all alone, but that's not gonna stop me from having a good time, checking out some ideas for some more scrap yarns project, or I actually had, just before starting this event, I was checking out these because I'm super obsessed with a new, it's not really a new concept, but it is a little bit of a new concept. Is a very 2025 yarn resolution that many of you have. So actually, yeah, we're gonna go a little bit through basically what can we do with scrap yarn so that they don't pile up. I thought that that was a good plan for today's live event. Coming up with ideas to avoid having too much scrap yarn. So let's get to it. I'm crocheting a small little swatch because I have some big plans for myself. I plan on making a nice little cardigan using tea time. And so I am just going to make a little swatch just to see what stitches fit, what stitches don't fit. And also just to check the color transition, because I'm actually, yeah, I have a thought about using potentially two strands. Just because I want this cardigan to be worked up quite fast. So yeah, so I'm gonna be crocheting, and we're gonna be going over some ideas on how to be more mindful about utilizing your scrap yarn as soon as you can. So without further ado, welcome to Craft and Chat. Once again, I'm your host Jaya, and let's get started. I wish I had a little like intro song now, with maybe some like imageries and shots of me and Luisa like laughing like like you see in the shows, right? But yeah, I mean, I feel like one of those things where I'm crocheting so uncomfortably because I want you guys to see what I'm doing, because I know that you guys have been complaining that you can't see your hands all the time, and it's just because we're clumsy. We're really, really clumsy. But yeah, I feel like one of the year 2025 resolution that a lot of people actually had in mind is to just kind of use up their scrap yarns. And already in 2023 and in 2025, I feel like scrap yarn was huge. I mean, it was everywhere. We all know Leke Baga. She is a cool Danish designer who wrote not one but two books on scrap yarn, knitted patterns, and she just made it look really rock and roll and very, very cool. And then everybody wanted to do it, right? So I feel like scrap yarn is definitely still in vogue. This is also why we're kind of having these craft and chats, because I feel like not only everybody has a lot of scrap yarns at home, but also, or maybe you don't, maybe you are the special one. But I feel like a lot of us have a lot of scrap yarn, a lot of us don't know what to do with it. And not only that, but also it piles up more and more and more. And if you're like me and you really are a scary pants and you don't want to end up playing yarn chicken, then you always order a little bit too much yarn, right? And the funny part is that I have friends that are the exact opposite. I have friends that are measuring so precisely the amount of yarn they need that is just, it blows my mind that they can just get away with it every single time. Yes, I'm talking about you, Erica. But at the same time, I also think that that if you're like me, you know, you buy too much yarn. So like I mentioned in previous craft and chats, for me personally, scrap yarn is not necessarily only you know, only yarn that you have little bits and bobs of. For me, scrap yarn is also like a single skein of who knows what this yarn was, because now the label is also missing. And basically, it's also single lonely skeins. They go in the pile of scraps. Unless I find myself in a situation where I have the same yarn bought in different colors for different projects, and then suddenly I know I can mix them together, and then obviously it's not necessarily a scrap yarn project, but it kind of is, because technically speaking, if you are, you know, if you have to like really search hard to find a project to use with 20 different colors, but there's the same yarn, it's the same yarn, and I'm talking about myself and Friends Extra Fine Merino, for instance. I have so many projects that I've done using that yarn, but at the same time, I have so many like leftover skeins, just one of one color, and now I'm kind of like really squeezing my brain together. Okay, what color goes together, and how can I fit things together, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, that's still kind of a scrap yarn idea, right? Am I right? I mean, I feel like it's still scrap. If you have to like really like think hard, okay, what can I do with you? It's because you're scrap. It's because you're not bought for a specific project, right? So anyway, we have I wrote down some ideas, and I have here yeah. So like we said, scrap yarns can pile up quickly if you're not mindful of your project. But we're trying, okay? This is 2025, and we're trying to be more mindful of our projects and our yarn usage. So here's 10 tips from us, or from me, to help you minimize that pile. And obviously, tip number one, it's not even a tip, it's kind of like it's an obvious choice, is planning your projects a little bit more carefully. Yes, did I hear that about myself? Yes, I have to plan more carefully. I know. Am I gonna do it? I'm gonna try. I'm definitely gonna try. And I think that my problem was that I would always be very insecure because I'm a plus size. So I would be super insecure every single time I would have to crochet or have to knit a project, knowing that I'm not gonna, I need more yarn. It's not enough. It's not enough. So I feel like I have to just trust, trust in my ability to make a swatch. And I feel like, yeah, before starting a project, calculate the exact amount of yarn that you actually need by, like we said, making sure that your gauge swatch matches what is required in the pattern, and obviously following the pattern recommendations. I feel like somebody who works here at Hobbii, I also see a lot of people that would like to use a different kind of yarn for a different kind of project. Of course, it makes a lot of sense because a lot of people can't afford to buy that specific yarn for that specific project, or a lot of people are allergic to it, or so forth. But I also feel like it comes with a risk, right? It comes with a big risk, because if you just look at the label and like, yeah, this should fit, but you don't actually make a gauge swatch, then you know, you're walking on some thin ice over there, my friend. So yeah, so basically, this is obviously going to help avoid unnecessary leftovers. And I feel like it's the most obvious tip, right? Then we have also, like we just mentioned earlier, to use yarn substitutions very, very wisely. So if you are substituting a yarn for a project, because no matter what reasons you have, really make sure that you get the yardage that is necessary. Sometimes obviously when you're switching from different brands, even though the fiber might be the same, or it might say, okay, this is a medium, and whatever, it can easily differ. I feel like it's not, I don't know, it's like clothes actually, because I'm going to shop A, and I try on a pair of jeans and it doesn't fit. And then I go and shop B and I try on a pair of jeans in the same size and it fits. So it's kind of the same with the yarn weight and other brands. So definitely, be on the lookout. Make sure that you do that gauge swatch. Don't sleep on it. And yeah, this is gonna help you definitely have a little less yardage. But it's also kind of like, it's very like, I feel like it's very obvious tips, but at the same times it's it's a little bit like, yes, of course I will do that, and then you don't. And I know it because that's me, okay? All right, then I have tip number 3 is working on a multi-yarn project. And this is definitely one of my personal favorites. So like I mentioned, about buying that extra skein just to make sure I have enough, I also love to make striped projects. I absolutely love it. I think it's so cool. I'm also wearing stripes today. This is just a cotton, simple Uniqlo shirt, but I love stripes. I think they're very cool. I think they always stay in fashion. I'm not sure about polka dots, for instance. Like polka dots, I love it. I love myself a polka dot. I absolutely am obsessed with it. But I feel like polka dots come and go. You know what I mean? They come and go. They don't, in my opinion, they don't stay classic as long as stripes do. So choose projects that require multiple colors or even require maybe multiple textures, because then you can maybe have a stripe that is using one specific texture and then another stripe in a different color that's using a different texture, and then it kind of like, it adds a little bit of zhuzh to it, right? And it makes it a little bit more fun. So obviously a great idea would be a granny square blanket or scrappy socks if you're knitting socks or into that. And of course, my favorite, striped sweaters. I absolutely love it. I've done it many times, and I'm doing it a lot for Albert now as well. He's getting a lot of leftover sweaters coming his way. And I think it's also fun for kids in general. I mean, imagine like a colorful sweater for a kid. It's always fun. It's always a lot of fun. And then I have I have a tip that it's a little bit controversial, okay? It's controversial, but it's not, I mean, I'm even like laughing just thinking about it. So, buying smaller skeins if possible, right? Buying less yarn if possible. What a joke. I know that a lot of us, I would say us, are working very hard in reducing our crazy stash. I'm one of those people. But I also understand that, and this is a meme, but it's also, so it's a joke, but it's also quite real. Collecting yarn, it's basically the same as, having love for the whatever craft you are doing, right? So if your hobby is, I don't know, knitting, you can also have the hobby of collecting yarn. And it's really funny because the more the years have passed by, the more I actually realize that is very much true. Very true. And especially with, for instance, cake yarns. Oh, I love to just display my cake yarns. I love to just see them, right? So it's a little bit of a controversial tip, but I mean, obviously, some brands do offer to buy smaller skeins of the same yarn. Um, but you know, I don't know. I think that the best choice here would be, instead of just telling yourself, "Oh, I'm going to buy less yarn." I think it would just be, I'm going to buy the exact amount of yarn I would need for this specific project. And I know it's very hard to do so, because when you are planning a project, say for instance, and you have to make the gauge swatch, right? Well, then how are you going to like, you need to then place two orders, because once you have to like get one skein so you can make a swatch and then buy some more. So I can see how it easily gets to just buying a 10 pack, right? And then we'll see what happens with that. So it's a little bit of a, yeah. But if you have the yarn at home and you want to make something with it, or if you have maybe not in the color you're going to order but it's the same yarn, then just do a swatch of whatever color you have at home, and bada bing bada boom. That's pretty much it. So yeah, buying smaller skeins or buying less yarn, please stop. That's it. I don't even know why I put that there. All right, then I have obviously using the Russian join or the magic knot. So instead of cutting and weaving in tails and so forth, learning how to maybe make the Russian join or the magic knot will allow you definitely to seamlessly connect yarns without having like a, you know, ugly little doodle doddle. And I feel like that's a tip for our next tip of the day, I would say, which is actually creating a continuous leftover project. So I feel like this is the most exciting part of today's episode. Let's talk magic balls and a obviously maybe a never ending scarf, but a magic ball blanket is in vogue, babies. So for those of you who do not know, you can obviously start a scrap project, and you can use so for instance, I have like this much left. It's not going to be the case, but then I would use the magic knot or use the Russian joint, connect my two yarns together, and then like keep building on a big ball, on a big ball. And you can obviously once you know your ball is large enough, then you can just start the who is bothering me at this time? Then you, oh no, maybe it works, and I think that they're gonna start like, there we go. We are now on flight mode and off Wi-Fi. What was I saying? Oh yes, I was saying that you basically connect and connect and connect your leftover yarns just into a ball. Boop, 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 boop. Rolling, rolling, rolling. And when you feel like the ball is big enough, then you're ready to make maybe a C2C blanket or whatever kind of blanket you feel like doing, right? That's actually nice. I feel like it's a very creative way to use your scrap yarn. Obviously, a few tips is that you would want to create yarns that are in similar weight, and then using, like I said, the magic knot or the Russian knot to secure the yarns together. You can also just use a regular knot and do like a Baga does, and just doesn't even cut in the like two strands that are out. It's just boom, it's just there, right? So it's a little bit more punk. But yeah, you can make a scrappy blanket, you can make a scrappy scarf or a scrappy shawl, you know, just go crazy, go hippie, let's go. And I feel like that's also really nice, because it's all about enjoying the randomness, you know, of things. It's just all random, so it doesn't really matter. And according to the internet, the best stitches for a magic blanket are granny squares or a C2C. And it makes sense, because then you have a little bit of variety. There's some variegations happening in there. But yeah, moss stitch for knitters as well, or the linen stitch also like looks really nice. This is for, like I said, the knitters, because it adds a little bit of texture and it blends colors really smoothly. Let me just see if I go on to my next tip. I have here, donate your leftovers, or maybe do a swap of leftovers. So if you have a crochet club or a knitting club or just a crafting club, just do a little, like, organize a little day, meet up, have some tea, have some coffee, some cookies, bring your leftovers. And by leftovers, I mean whatever small little ball of leftovers you have. You wouldn't want to just bring a little piece of, but maybe people are interested also in little scrappy pieces, so you never know. But yeah, just organize a little event for your little community. Switch around the the leftovers, and that's I actually think that's a really good idea. So yeah, I actually think I wish. Now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like I should definitely organize that here at the office, because I know that there's a lot of people that have a lot of yarn. And like me, some of the yarn I bought many years ago, and I might not like the color anymore, or and and I'm talking full blown 10 bags of, so it's definitely worth. It's a great idea. It's a good idea. Good for me. Good job, yeah. Then I have a keep a scrap yarn log. Yeah, this is a little niche, but hey, if you're nerdy like me, you might. So you can also maintain a record of your leftover yarn with, details like weight, yardage, so forth, fiber types, because of course you can weigh your, and this is like in case you didn't know how much yarn you have left on. Ooh, I'm getting to the pink. I was like really looking forward to get to, come on, focus, to get to the pink part. But for instance, on any label that you have obviously the weight of the yarn. And I'm not talking about the weight as in like a medium or whatever. I'm talking about how much it weighs. And this is 50 grams, so that's 175 ounces and 265 meters. So if you end up like working with this yarn, and then you have just, I don't know, half a ball left or a little more than half, you can actually weigh it on a scale, on a kitchen scale, and see how much grams you have left, and then you do the math, and then you know exactly the length of the yarn, of the thread itself, right? And I feel like that's good for, like we mentioned at the beginning, planning your projects a little bit more carefully. So yeah. Then I have, oh yeah, speaking of weighing, weigh your yarn before and after you finished your project. So using a digital scale, like we said, you can weigh your yarn before you start and also during the project. And this helps track how much is used and kind of pretty much prevents unnecessary purchases in the future. Because I feel like, for instance, for a blanket, and this is a very particular reoccurring theme in blankets, is that we buy enough yarn to make a blanket, but then we also kind of don't have enough to finish the blanket. It happened to me the few times I've knitted or made blankets. I've also crocheted a granny square one. For the specific purpose of not wanting to deal with the previous situations where I just didn't have enough yarn. I completely miscalculated how much yarn I needed. And then I had to go buy some more, of course. But I feel like if you keep weighing it as you go, then it also allows for you to kind of like know, am I playing yarn chicken or not here? Have I made the right choice or not? Especially because I feel like with blankets, it's a shoot or miss, Sometimes you have so much left over from a blanket project. And that's why, in my opinion, nowadays, when I think of blanket, I'm thinking straight scrap yarn project. I'm like, I'm not even thinking about making a blanket in just one color, although it would look nice. It would look nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. Um, but I'm just like, let's go hippie. And I cannot wait, maybe in 10 years or so, maybe in 15 years, maybe Seb and I can buy a little tiny cottage somewhere, like a small little tiny house. No, not even a house, like what they call here in Denmark where we live, a summer house, right? So it's like this kind of like it's like a fancy wooden shed basically. Um, it would be so cute to have one, and then I can bring all my yarn there, and I can make a lot of nice little scrappy project and just turn the whole place into this super beautiful hippie oasis. Like I want to play the doors, eat some cookies, have my tea, have my little crocheting project or knitting project with me. Sun is going down. Albert is playing in the garden chasing butterflies. I can already see it. What a joy. And me just crocheting away at my scrap yarn blanket for my summer house. What a dream. Then we have so donate, weigh your yarn before and after, keep a scrap yarn log, repurpose scrap yarn so you can use scraps for smaller projects like obviously coasters, bookmarks, and pom-poms. The previous live we made is all about that. It's 100 ideas on how you can use your scrap yarn for, so just find a video and check it out. You can also use them for practicing new stitches, which I actually think is super, super smart. Or new techniques before committing to a larger piece. And I mean, for instance, now we have the beautiful, beautiful Be Your Own Star Cal, which is a super lovely cal organized by Kame Crochet and us here at Hobbii, where you will end up making a beautiful, beautiful little shawl for yourself. And I think that it has a lot of different stitches. It's an intermediate project, but at the same time, I also think that it's like if you are an adventurous beginner, you can go ahead and give it a shot without no worries. She will provide you with a lot of detailed photos in the pattern releases for this cal, which will start in March. And then she will also have a lot of great video tutorials for you to look at and, you know, like not fall back, right? Not fall behind. And I mean, if it's a cal, then you obviously have an entire community, you know, backing you up and giving you the necessary help to make it work. So if you don't have enough information from all of the pictures and the videos, not to worry. There is a Facebook group where you can just shoot away your question and then bam, I'm convinced that somebody will give you an answer really, really quickly. So with that in mind, practicing your stitches for scrap for with your scrap yarn is a really, really good idea, because you have to practice a lot of stitches for that cal. And I think it's a lot of fun to just utilize your scrap like that, or also to just have like different swatches and test out differences between, if you, for instance, like me, have a lot of, I don't know, Friends cotton or extra fine merino or whatnot, right? And you want to see how it behaves using different crochet hooks or different needle sizes, then it's a really, really good way to also use them up, right? Before you know, commit to a bigger project. So I think that was actually our that was the last tip I had for you guys today. And we're not even, I think we still have a little bit of time left, so I'm gonna stick around. I only had I didn't prepare that much, but let's talk a little bit about the super, super fancy idea of a magic ball blanket, because I am absolutely in love. I'm gonna show you guys a little bit Do 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 do. I want to see some ideas, and I'm just checking out Reddit, for instance. This is somebody who posted a C2C, or was it a Granny Square one? No, it was a C2C blanket. You're gonna get a lot of. Look at that. Look at how cool that looks. I feel like you can really make some cool stuff. And I want to show you guys how a magic blanket also looks, because a magic blanket, a magic ball also looks, because it's a lot of people are doing it and it's a lot of fun. So it's pretty much like this, right? So you just add up your scraps, like I said, and you tie them up with the magic knot, and then you just create this huge blanket. So of course you can find a lot of ideas on Pinterest, and I have a lot of ideas here on Pinterest, and mamma mia, people are really going at it. Of course you can, but it's all like quite, let me see if I can find, for instance, this beautiful shawl, you know, different techniques. So each stripe of color has a different stitch. This is also great for practicing stitches or reminiscing, like how was this stitch made? I can't really remember. So it's really cool. And then of course the super cool thought of making these kind of, I really like this actually, it's so cool, these kind of sweaters where it's just kind of like very color blocky, if you see what I mean. They're so cool. I love it. I think it's a great idea. And oh, this is a Läkebaga one for sure. Yes, it has to be. Have you guys seen a Läkebaga pattern before? Because I have to show you guys. It's very cool stuff. Do do do. Do do do. So this is the stuff she does. Super cool. And like this. And the way she basically does it is by she uses a lot of kid silk and a lot of fluffy yarns to make really cute gradients. Like she makes little kind of like butterflies, and it has different weights and everything. And it's held together with 1 or 2 white strands. So white strand of yarn. That's why actually, if there is something I never actually give away ever, is my white yarns. I always keep white yarn. I always have white yarn. Always. Because I feel like I can definitely just go ahead and mix it with whatever other yarns I have, and it's gonna look good. So I'm almost done with my little thing here, with my little gauge. I really don't like how thick the material is, because my thought was to make like a spring, kind of like a cardigan, maybe a jacket, kind of, depending on how the material ends up, the fabric ends up looking. But I feel like it's definitely has a lot of it's actually quite cute. Yeah, maybe I'll go for this. What do you guys think? Maybe I'll go for this. This is actually quite sweet. I'm gonna go a little closer so you see a little bit what the yarn looks like. Can I just pull this away for a sec? There we go. There we go. It looks like this. I really like it. I think it's kind of cute. Whoop. I'm just there we go. It's a really pretty color combo. So what I've done is I started from both the exterior of the cake and the interior of the cake. So okay, I might go ahead for it. You know, we'll see. I'm gonna do some more swatches to see what they look like. And if you're like me and you don't want to cut the swatch up, then of course you can simply take a photo on a blocking mat so you see exactly that it matches, and then just keep it in your in your phone. It's quite sturdy. I'm gonna try to go up a crochet hook size, maybe even 2 sizes up, to see what it looks like if it's a little bit more airy. So yeah. All right, but I think that that is a wrap, my babies. I had a lot of fun, and I'm hoping that next week I'm gonna have a not next week, but in 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna have Louisa back, because I've yapped alone and I don't like yapping alone. I mean, I do like yapping alone, but it's always nicer to yap with Louisa, you know? So yeah, without further ado, I hope you got more wise in your scrappy yarn adventures. And I will see you babies very, very soon. Maybe in our next live shopping event from next week. All right. Have a good one and take care of yourself. Bye.